Hi everybody. Just checking, make sure all the camera angles are okay there. I don't think we have too much glare. And we're going to talk about these beautiful stamps from Stampscapes. This is the set that I got, and there's some good ideas on the packaging that came with it. I don't know what the name of this set is. Anyway, I'll try to look it up and tag it down below. And the reason I'm not doing this live is because I think it would really take a long time if I were doing it live and kind of interacting with you guys. And it already takes quite a bit of time. So I want to take my time to do it correctly. Not that I don't love you guys know I do, but it's very messy, and I want to be able, if I have to pause the video to kind of clean up or walk away, to be able to do that. So that's the only reason. Plus, I think the video quality itself is better when I film it this way and upload it versus doing it live, because, you know, we get hit or misses with the internet and stuff like that. So this is my first time ordering stamps from Stampscapes, and this was the first one that I made yesterday, and it's actually pretty easy. The stamps themselves are so beautiful that I couldn't resist getting and playing with them. So what I'm using is glossy paper stock. This is from the Paper Cut Glossy 50 postcards. You can see at the time I bought them, oops, they were $5.80. I don't know if that's the current price or not. I've had this pack quite a while, and what it is it's a glossy card stock, but then it has like this matte bottom, so it's not like photo paper. It's not plastic. It's not Yupo paper. It's just a cardstock that has this glossy cover on it, okay? And what I struggled with the other day when I was making the deer cards, let me show you guys that. When I was making this silhouette stag card, one of the things I was struggling with was getting the black ink. So I think I've got that resolved, so we'll try that in just a second. If you didn't see this video, I'll link it at the end of this video, which you'll be able to click it and watch it. Yes, I got my girls back, my nails back. I missed them. I couldn't go without. And I did like this shimmery, like pink sparkle. I know you guys like to see them. For Leah's birthday this weekend. Kind of unicorny, you know. All right, so let's get into this. I have just a scrap piece of cardstock too that you'll see come in and out of the scene, just so I don't get the ink all over my tonic mat. That's all. So the one I'm going to start with is this kind of like lake scene, and you can see the difference in where I have it stamped out here and have the other stamped, and that's because when I stamped it out here I was using my archival ink, and I don't know if it's just because it's an old ink pad, but I have re-inked this thing 3 times in the last 3 days and it's still stamping out like that. So I'm a little disappointed in it, but you can see the darker spots here. What I pulled out was my archival ink pad from Stampin' Up. Now, I don't know what company provided this, but Stampin' Up, I don't think they sell this anymore. I think it's retired. I'm not sure. I'll look it up for you guys. But this is stamping nice and black, as you can see, and I like that I can hold this ink pad and get to the stamps pretty easily. So we're going to start with that little lake scene. This set that I got came with all of these stamps, and they were all on the red rubber, and all I had to do was cut them, and then I mounted them on some cling mount foam. Okay, so it comes with like this little like water detail, if you want to call it that. And then this one, I know it's hard to see, is clouds. And then this one is like a tree branch. Okay, like a hanging tree branch. And then this is the main scene, which are the trees in the background, the pine trees and the little lake. And then these are the closer trees, which are like, it has some boulders on there. So we're just going to mount these on a block, and I'm going to bring the ink pad to it. And this does get a little messy, but it is fun. I just think that these stamps are illustrated so beautifully. I can't get over the detail. Now, down here where I have the little spots in the water here, I'm going to kind of dab some of those out of the way. And that's because I don't want them to be as prominent in my photo, because they're very prominent in that other one. And I'm going to kind of stamp this over to the right a little bit and up. So in the top right side of my glossy cardstock. And I'm going to give that just a second for the ink to transfer over. That's the hardest part about this whole process, is you can't move too fast because we have to wait for that ink to saturate into the card. All right, beautiful. All right, so while that's sitting there a second, I am just going to clean my stamp up, because that's that archival ink, so we want to try to get that off. And now I'm going to go in with these pine trees. And by the way, I did not come up with any of these ideas. I watched the Stampscapes YouTube channel, and the owner and the illustrator, he does all of these videos, so you can look that up. It's Stampscapes. So same thing. Just gonna kind of blot out some of these little squares at the bottom a little bit, just so they're not as dark, as prominent. And I'm gonna stamp this down, bring my little cardstock over. I'm going to stamp this down over on the left side of the card here. Okay. And then I'm going to re-ink just the tops here so that it looks like we have trees in front of us. I'm just going to do those right here. So it kind of looks like we're looking down into this like lake scene. We're going to give that just a second to dry, and actually let me grab the heat tool and heat it up. I'm going to put my stamps and my ink away for just a moment. We will probably come back in and stamp again some more in a moment when we're done with the backgrounds, but just the foreground part, I think we're okay there. Where is my heat tool? Okay, here we go. So because this is a coated paper, you don't want to apply direct heat. So I will just kind of wave it from a distance and pretty quickly. You can pretty much see when that ink is all dried. It's not transferring. Okay, good. So the inks that I think his name is Ken was using, it's either Ken or Kevin, I'm so sorry, I believe it's Ken, was using were Marvy inks, and from what I understand they're either hard to get or maybe discontinued. So I'm going to use Distress inks. I think a lot of people already have these, and these are original Distress inks. So I have a couple of colors out, so let me show you them from lightest to darkest. So I have Tumbled Glass, Broken China, Peacock Feathers, Blueprint Sketch, Chip Sapphire, and Black Soot. So I will try to tell you guys which order I'm using these in when I'm using them. I am using the Color Box Stylus tools, and in fact I'm going to grab one more sponge to put in there. I would assume you can also use the Ranger Distress blending tools as well. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with, and one of the things that he says to do is if you have re-inkers, you can use your re-inkers. So this is my tumbled glass re-inker, and all I'm going to do is open my tumbled glass, and you can see that there's some there in the lid, and just put a little bit in the lid there. And this is the lightest color. And this is great because honestly, guys, I very rarely use my re-inkers. And so this being the lightest color, I'm going to use this new sponge on here. And he says the best thing to do is just to get with the lightest colors, very similar, I guess, to like Copic coloring, is to just saturate your whole area. And because this is a glossy cardstock, it'll take a second for it to get in. But once it soaks in, you'll see it'll be easier to layer the colors. So at this point, we just want to bring that color in and saturate our whole scene as like a base layer of color. And I know this is a very light blue. It might be kind of hard to pick up on it. Now, one of the things I am going to do, I have some Post-it tape here, and I'm just going to get enough just to put on my fingers. I've learned that trick from Christina Warner when she was using inks, because these inks do tend to, again, they don't soak right into the paper right away. So they kind of smudge a little bit, and you don't want that ink being lifted onto your fingers as you're doing your scene. And I don't have any particular strokes here. I'm just kind of back and forth, making sure that I get my entire glossy cardstock saturated here with this super, super light blue, which is again Distress Inks in tumbled glass. And these are regular Distress Inks, not the oxides. What's nice about these stylus tools is they really don't leave any kind of brush marks, and that's because we're using a sponge and we're using glossy paper. Again, you could use probably the Distress Ink blender tools as well. And you'll see this ink is moving around pretty well. Once you feel your scene is completely covered, you can move on to the next color. Okay. So the next color I have is Broken China. So I'm going to use my other stylus for this color. And all we're going to do is just kind of layer our colors in. So we want to leave the center areas kind of lighter and bring in from the edge the darker colors. And if you wanted a quicker application, you know, you could use your re-inkers. I really did not look to see if I had re-inkers for these other ink pads, to be honest with you. And I'm just going to come in from the edges and pull that color in. Like a, what do they call that? Like a vignette look, where it's kind of darker on the outside and then lighter in the center. And right now it's very difficult to see that the two colors are different, but I'll show you here when I raise this up. You'll see that the edges are definitely slightly darker than the center. So I'll show you here. So you can see down here it's darker than it is up here. And we're just going to keep bringing the color in, and you just keep going around. And as the color gets laid down, it soaks into your cardstock, and you just keep going around in a circle, pulling that color in. And again, I don't think this is a very hard technique. I think it's the beauty of these stamps that really makes this stand out and makes it look like you spent a lot of time coloring this in. But it's just how beautiful these stamps are. Alright, I think I'm going to go in one more time, one more layer. This is tedious. It does take a long time. It's not just stamp, color, and go. But I think the end results are totally worth it. They're so beautiful. all I'm doing here is just kind of darkening that tree line down in front of the lake here where I think it would be a little darker if it were shadows. Okay, so I think I'm done with that one. That one was broken china. I'm going to move on to peacock feathers, and I'm going to use the same sponge that I was using on the broken china. Now this peacock feathers is a little more of a teal, so I think we'll see it kind of stand out a little more as, you know, that greenish blue color instead of just a darker blue. You can already see it making a difference on there. And you have time because, you know, this color sits on top of the cardstock for a while, so you have a little bit of time to move this color and play with it. So if you don't like where it's at, you can take your other dauber and just kind of lift that ink out of there, move it out of the way. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to switch to my other stylus because it has the other darker colors on there. And I'm going to go into Blueprint Sketch. And this is a deeper blue, more like a royal blue. Now here you can start to see kind of the stroke marks, so maybe go in with a little bit lighter hand and just kind of go in a circular motion to hide some of those strokes. And that's all we're doing, is layering these different shades and depth of these colors. And you could, you know, probably argue, well, why can't I just go in and add the darkest color? Because we want that ombre look. We want these colors to layer on top of each other. You just don't want to go in and make it a totally dark scene. You want areas on this card where it's a little lighter and areas on the card where it's a little darker. Alright, so can you guys see where in the center we have that really light blue, and then as we go out we have some of that peacock feathers, right? And then here we have the Blueprint Sketch kind of, and as we go in, each color we go darker, we're going to pull it out. We're not going to go in as far. You can kind of tap that color in on the edges and the corners and let that saturate in a second. And just very light tapping. We're not trying to jam that ink in there. We just want it to sit on the top, and it will soak in as it sits there a while. Okay, so you can start to see the scene as being framed off as being lighter here and darker on the outside. Okay, that was Blueprint Sketch. I'm going to go in now with Chip Sapphire, which is a very dark, dark blue, almost like a navy. Again, lightly bringing that in on the edging. You can see where my fingerprints are starting to leave a mark down here where it's darker. That's why I try to use this Post-it tape to hopefully prevent some of that. And I'm trying to keep my fingers more in the center. And then the last color I'm going to bring in just to do around the edges using that same sponge that I was using on Chip Sapphire. So I mean, I used what, 1, 2, 3, 6 different colors, and I used 4 sponges. And you can take them up and wash them and rinse them out. And this Chip Sapphire, or this black soot, I'm just really just going around the outer edges here, just kind of framing off this scene. I want it to darken the scene but not take over where we have that blue at. How some of these other inks are going into this area where it's supposed to be lighter, so I'm just kind of moving them out of the way, just pushing them out. It really does just kind of blend very smoothly. It's very easy to do. I would imagine you could also do this on Bristol. If you have a lighter hand, just take your time blending. So I think that looks pretty good for my scene. What do you guys think? And you could wait a few seconds and kind of then, you know, dry the card off. I want to take the branch stamp and stamp the top here just to make it look like there's like a tree coming down. You could leave it as is. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it as is because I have enough trees on there, I think. because I did this one with the trees at the top and then I ended up smudging it, so I don't want to mess this one up. But I definitely think from my first try to my second try, the second try came out much better. I am going to smooth some of this in a little better here. Some of that speckled look on the ink there, I don't like it. And because, again, that ink is sitting on top, it's very easy to kind of move it around. This is smoothed out now, looks a little nicer. Anywhere that you think that the lines are too harsh, just go back in with your sponge and move it. Okay, now one of the things that he also did on his videos was he used a white pigment ink and kind of did, where's my white ink? You know, kind of made it look like clouds and fog by just using some Q-tips. And I don't have any Q-tips in front of me, but what I do have are these little Fantastics blending tools. And they have like a spongy end. So I'm just going to try using this now. I don't know how much ink is on here. Oh yeah, there's some ink on there. So he just used a Q-tip and some white distress ink, and this is just white distress ink from Picket Fence. Or Picket Fence is the name of it. And then, ooh, I smudged it. See that? I smudged it with my finger right there. See that? See? Fixed it. Where's my little Post-it note? Here we go. And he just kind of gave it like this layer. To look like fog. I don't think that my white, I think I'm picking up more ink than I'm putting down at this point. Or I guess it could be like bubbles in the water. I think it would be almost easier just to use straight up white re-inker here. Or stars, or clouds, or fog, or anything like that. Now, I haven't gotten to that too good with that part of the lesson yet. I'll have to work on that a little bit. Yeah, at this point, I probably should go get a Q-tip. All right, never mind that part. I got to work on that one. But at least we have the basics down. And the other thing that he did is he went in with some gel pens and kind of highlighted some areas. I like the scene just like this, but I've seen, ooh, just bumped you guys, sorry. I've seen ones where there were stars. Let's see here, see if I can get some stars in here. Watch my gel pen not cooperate now. Oh, I really like this with the stars. And I'm trying to just be real random with them. Some just a real quick blip so that it's not very bright. And some I'm making a little bigger. And then we want to kind of reflect some of that down into the water here. I'm just adding some white gel dot detail on top of these rocks. Almost like they're kind of reflecting some of that moonlight. And this is just a jelly roll pen, gel pen. That's coming out pretty neat. Oh, this is so pretty. I really am enjoying these stamps. Alright, so put some more stars in our water here. I wish I had like a little fish stamp that was like jumping out of the water. Okay, so alright, so I think we'll cut it there. And then, you know, I would probably mount this on some black cardstock. I think I would probably mount it like that on a black card and give that away. I think it's a very beautiful card. It would make a good sympathy card, a masculine card, thinking of you card. I think anybody that's interested in nature, scenic views would enjoy this card. So there you go, guys. There's my second take on doing a Stampscape scene using Distress inks. If you have any questions, so here's the first one, here's the second one. The second one definitely came out better than the first one in my opinion. And then if you want to see the video on how I did kind of the northern skies, which is very similar, this stamp is the stag stamp from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps, but I did this method very similar in the background here, just using green inks. For this one, I will link this video. If you are not subscribed, I will put my button over here. You guys can click that and subscribe, click the bell, and you'll get notifications every time I post a video. If you like this video, I appreciate your thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below and I'll be happy to answer those for you guys. As always, thanks for watching and keep on stamping. Bye-bye.